Welcome to the RaceGuru Thunder Hour, brought to you by FantasyGuru.com, a part of the Elite Plus Network. I am Rich Maletto, still the Res Commissioner. You can find me on X, but don't follow me at Fantasy Bosco. And as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Engel, here with us again. You can find on X at Sean E247. That's Sean E-A-N E247, because he's up 24/7 a day talking racing. Maybe he is. I don't know.
Well, I'd like to be talking that 24/7. It would be awesome to do that. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. I could talk racing 24/7. Not sure I could talk NASCAR 24/7, but I'm with you. I'm with you. I feel you. And hey, we may be talking racing, but at FantasyGuru.com, we talk about everything, all the sports, esports, basketball, football, you name it, right? And of course, you can always get our racing content along with all the NHL, all the hockey, everything that is not NFL or Major League Baseball or March Madness, I may add. You can get the all-in MVP package or the MVP Platinum all-in package. I believe it is still discounted. I think it's $79.99 still, I believe.
The amount is on the site. You can go forth and check it out there. But what we do have to promote, though, this week is March Madness. We have our March Madness guide out on Fantasy Guru for $39.99. Gets you access to everything March Madness related, including the exclusive Discord room where you can get all the exclusive March Madness bets from each of the Fantasy Guru members there. You could see their brackets. You could see the March Madness live stream that they did in order to put together a bracket. So a lot of stuff going on there. And the madness all begins, and probably by the time you hear this podcast, it might be ongoing.
Shout out to Wookie, who said, I know nothing about it, but I won a contest last year because of the Fantasy Guru content. So hat tip Wookie, and he's right. So come check it out. And hey, in addition to March Madness, because there's other things that happen in March besides basketball, right? Although I am a fan of the college basketball tournament. It's baseball season, Sean. So we got Ray Flowers, the Oracle, Joe Patio, all of them busting out the baseball content. So, again, go over to fantasyguru.com. Go to the top right corner, click subscribe. Check out all the packages. See what works for you. If you're not seeing what works for you or what you want, or maybe you've already had a package and you're looking to add or supplement, do us a favor, email support@fantasyguru.com. Tell them what you're looking for. Tell them your questions. I recommend being polite and nice. It'll go a long way. Just saying. Yeah. Politely nice. Ask, hey, what would you recommend? This is the plan I'm on. This is what I'd like to add. This is what I'm looking to do this year. We will get you taken care of. We aim to please. We know there isn't a one size fits all. That's why we got all the different packages. So go over to fantasyguru.com. Check it out. You have access to us in the Discord. I mean, me, Sean, Mark, but I mean, Jeff Mans is in there. Ted Pop's in there. Russ, Tyler, Patio Joe, Jorge Pops, the bearded one, Scott Bond. I mean, you name it. Armando Marsal, Ray Flowers. They're all answering questions. So go in there, check it out.
Stacked up staff. That is for darn sure.
I can't deny it, man. We really do have a stacked up staff. So shout out to our fellow teammates. But Sean, we're here to talk NASCAR here on the RaceGuru Thunder Hour.
Yeah, that's right. It's just us two this week. No Mark Hogan joining us because he's prepping up for UFL season.
I would say he's taking so much pride in the UFL. He's like, look, guys, I've got to get this done. Here are what I can do. And we love it for it, Mark. We'll take what you can give us, and we're all in for NASCAR. Look, in all fairness, I thought we had a couple of decent races this weekend at Las Vegas. I think it bodes well for the upcoming track. Something that I find a little frustrating, since I am happy with the variety of tracks. We go from Las Vegas with progressive banking to Miami with progressive banking. And what people probably don't realize is Miami kind of started this progressive banking thing. It's because it's worked well. It almost gave us dirt-esque racing. So it was great to see. I love Vegas for it. I think it widens the track. I think it makes it more maneuverable for the drivers. And quite frankly, I'm kicking myself, Sean, because I had Barry wrote down as a top 10, minus 135. And I chickened out. And scared money can't win money. And I apologize to everybody. I was I was all up in my head this past weekend. And wow, what a job by the young man. And this is an old school racer. He didn't even do a burnout. Why?
Josh Berry we're talking about for context here.
My bad. Josh Berry ended up winning. Wouldn't do a burnout. Why? Because he grew up on the weekly series where if you did that, you tore up your car and you got yelled at. And shout out to Berry. He's the only NASCAR weekly series winner in NASCAR's history to win a cup race.
That is true, but just one note about the whole burnout thing with Berry. The broadcast did not show this, but he did end up doing a brief burnout after all. It just wasn't as long as like normal other drivers did, but the broadcast cut this out. But there are clips of this on social media. You can
which he was asked about it, and basically, why didn't you really do a burnout? Because I did. He basically, and then went on and did like a Polish victory lap, if I remember correctly. So at least he grabbed the flag out of the left-hand side and did a little jaunt down the front straightaway there. I'm partial to the Polish victory lap myself, so I'm all for it. It's a breath of fresh air to have a young driver act like the mature driver of the bunch. Like, hey, I came from a background of not tearing up equipment. I'm going to continue to not tear up equipment. And people may not realize this. You know, when there was the whole Matt DiBenedetto, Paul Menard, Harrison Burton thing at the Wood Brothers, John Wood made a very interesting point that I don't know a lot of people picked up on. There's more to being a good race car driver than being fast, he said. And that it's hard for a team to get faster when they're constantly fixing or repairing cars instead of working on tweaking cars. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't say tweaking, but, you know, basically working on putting that effort and time into improving the race team and the race setup versus fixing what's broken.
Yeah, and we know that with Josh Berry. I mean, I know we call him a young guy per se because he doesn't have a lot of cup experience compared to some of the others out there, but he's an experienced racer. He's 34 years old. Let's not forget. Right. So he knows how to handle these cars. He knows what it means to be a part of a team that's all about maintaining equipment. And Berry, I feel like this has been a great fit, and now it's showing, and he is going to be blossoming this year.
And this wasn't fluky. He has been consistently running in the top 10 since he's been in this car. And that goes to show you that, no offense, Harrison Burton, I think you're out of your league, bro. I mean, we expected this 21 car to be more comparable to the other Penske cars. And while Cindric has kind of, until this year, kind of lulled behind, it's really kind of blossomed. So is the 21. And I think Berry is the perfect driver for that car. He is not a guy that's going to tear up the car, but if you give him a top 5 equipment car, he's going to produce with top 5 runs. And he's showing that. They've given him a top 15 car, and he's been a top 10 performer. So I'm excited for Berry. I was excited for Berry when he went to Haas and took over for Harvick. It's a shame it was disappointing, the lack of success, but now, hindsight being 2020, I think we understand why. There was already things in the workings that we couldn't see. They weren't all in. You know what I mean? You don't go from all in to all out in a switch of flip of a switch, right? So I'm excited for Josh Berry. It was good to see. It was great to see somebody else, and this is going to be great for their program. It's going to be a couple $1 million, like you said to me off air at one point, Sean. So financially, this is going to help him. This is nothing but a feel-good moment and a momentum builder for Josh Berry and Ford, really, because Ford has struggled for the most part with success on these 1.5-mile tracks. That just hasn't been their jam the last couple of years. So
in fact, I don't think many of us really had Ford in the cards as the winning manufacturer this past weekend, especially considering the history. We were rattling it off that Ford has yet to win in the next-gen car at Las Vegas before this weekend, too. It was only just Chevys with Hendrick and Toyotas. That was it.
And really, Ford's success with the next gen on the 1.5 miles in general has not been, it's not just Vegas. It's been a bunch of them, right? Where they just haven't, last year you noted the engine change made a huge difference. All of a sudden they were at least competitive. But the first year and a half with this new car, Ford wasn't really competitive on these bigger tracks. Super speedway racing, yes. Short tracks, yes. The intermediates, the larger, smaller tracks with speed, the Dovers of the world, they were struggling hard. So, look, this is a boost for Ford. This is a boost for the Wood brothers. Congratulations to the Wood brothers. Is this their 101st win or 100th win? 101st
101st,
right?
because Harrison got the 100th last year with at Daytona.
So that's a big honor for Barry and the Wood brothers in general. So overall Cup side, I was pretty well impressed and pleased. Trucks could have done without the rain in the desert. I feel like the rain impacted the race more than it should have, as far as impacting pit strategy, got people off cycle, got drivers put in the back. I find the truck racing still exciting and fun, but I got to tell you, when you don't start till 9 o'clock Eastern on a Friday and you have 2.5 rain delays, I got to be honest, Sean, I didn't catch there's a lot I missed from that race, and I apologize because I pride people on being the truck guy, but it was Friday night at 1 o'clock before the stupid thing was over.
Yeah, that's like getting around the time frame of wanting to watch the first F1 race of the weekend, which was happening around like midnight or 1 in the morning this past weekend. They opened up, and funny enough, they dealt with a lot of rain too. So
horrible.
Yeah.
And they went off-roading. There was so much rain. There was numerous cars I saw that went off-roading this week. And I don't know if people realize this. F1 cars are not meant to off-road. The fact that 2 drivers drove through the gravel pits is quite impressive. Like, hat tip to the drivers. That is all about not hitting the brakes, using momentum, and just controlling a slide through rocks that's meant to catch you. I was impressed with both those drivers that did that. So hat tip to them. What can you tell me about the Xfinity race, Sean? Because I was hit and miss with that one just because of the timing during the day. I caught the last probably third of it. The first third to half, I was in and out. But what I saw was decent. I tell you what, Sean, RCR Xfinity program is, I don't want to go out on a limb or stick my neck out there, but they may be the fastest team out in the track right now.
Well, if there is one thing to note about RCR and Xfinity, they are one of the most consistent teams, and their consistency has been real wild to start the season. I mean, both of their drivers, Austin Hill and Jesse Love, have won this year. Jesse Love, he has the most top 10 finishes of all drivers this year in the Xfinity Series with 4 of them.
Money.
Yeah,
he's good, dude.
He's starting to come into his own now. You can really see
Yes.
it this year.
We were so high on him that first year, and it was kind of a letdown, and then it was kind of a lull. But all the excitement we had, dude, it's coming to fruition. Like, this guy is going to be a force in the Cup Series. I'm convinced of it. It's probably going to happen sooner than later. This is only helping his trajectory because at this point, he already came in with a lot of hype. If he continues this trajectory for Xfinity, we're going to be hard pressed to find a team that's not going to, whether it's Aspire, a Rick Ware, somebody like that will make room. Whether the Joe Gibbs, the Trackhouses, the Hendricks of the world will do the same, it's hard to say. But I tell you what, if I'm someone like Alex Bowman, I'd be looking over my shoulder a little bit, man.
Well, that's why Bowman, he's going to be continuing to try to perform at a high level. And to his credit, he is kind of doing that. He hasn't just been in the victory circle that much, but he's been getting himself mighty close at times.
And he'd look good in the Xfinity race at Phoenix, right? And I was remiss. I forgot to mention Corey Heim did win the truck race. He didn't dominate. It was funny because the broadcast was basically all about Heim and Chandler Smith to begin with. And then, like I said, we started getting the cautions and things mixed up. And really the last third of the race was Corey Heim's. I mean, it was in there. It was shocking to me that his odds were so low considering he had won there. But again, I've been pumping my chest about Corey Heim for 2 years now, Sean. So
yeah,
he's always going to be the favorite to win every week. It's a matter, in my opinion, if it's worth chasing the low odds or not, right? At less than 2-1, it's tough for me to pick any race winner at 2-1. I'd rather gamble on 2 or 3 other drivers at a top 10 at plus 130. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we know that Corey Heim is going to find his way into the Cup Series eventually. We know that.
Well, he's already got a part-time ride, right? So here again, where are we going to put these drivers? We got Jesse Love. We got Corey Heim. You know, you've already got Carson Hocevar and John Hunter. Maybe John's on the way out, right? If he doesn't although he's kind of, he's trending in the
He's
right direction.
actually
Finally.
been beating
Right.
his teammate pretty good this year.
Right. Ty Gibbs isn't going anywhere. I don't care how bad he's performing right now. Ty Gibbs is not going anywhere. So forget that. Daniel Suarez, he may have been on a hot seat, but the speed's been there. And this week he finally got the finish to match the speed.
Yeah, which our own Mark Hogan did point out about this on this very show last week. He said it's coming this time. He ended up finishing as the runner-up this past weekend.
Yes,
so
and he almost had the win. And Barry raced him really clean. That was that race for the lead with 20 to go or something. That got me. That was old school. That's what got me hooked into racing. I understand that once he got by him, it was a done deal. That I don't care. That doesn't mean it was a bad race for me just because we didn't have a photo finish. You know what I mean? Like, it was good, clean racing, hard racing. They were robbing each other of their lanes. They were pinching. They were doing all the things you do as a talented and skilled race driver. It was kind of like, there's some people get bored with boxing. People love boxing because they're a student of the sport. And so they're good with a Roy Jones Jr. just scoring the points, right? They're not there to watch for the knockouts. That's us with the racing. That was old school, good old-fashioned, fun racing. That was great to see.
The Xfinity race was kind of like that too, a little bit as well.
It was
with Almirola and Allgaier, and then Allgaier taking it in the end too.
Finally, and the thing was and there was another one where they were robbing each other's air because with 13 to go, it looked like Almirola had him dead to rights. I mean, he was a second and a half back and got down to his bumper. But Allgaier, again, another student of the sport, did everything from an aero standpoint, from a drive line, the driver's line standpoint. He did everything he could to make it difficult to pass, and had ticked Almirola, he didn't dump him. He could have put the bumper to him and moved him, and he didn't. Hat tip to them both. And it was great to see Allgaier get a win there. He has been so good at that track, man. I mean, last 6 races, 6 top 10s, 4 top 5s, just no wins. And after the dominant performance of the last 2 weeks with Allgaier, awesome. Good to see.
Yeah, you could say overall, outside of the rain in the truck race, it was kind of a feel-good weekend if you were into NASCAR and you wanted something that was like the closest semblance you can get towards older school NASCAR. I felt like you got that more here than any other week this year.
If I had my druthers, Sean, we would keep this car and race it at the intermediate tracks, and we would do something totally different at the super speedways and the short tracks and the road courses.
It wouldn't be the first time that NASCAR's ran 2 different cars at different track types. Let's not forget, like around 07 when they were first introducing the car tomorrow, and then putting that, and then like the Gen 4 at different tracks and running them both. It could be done.
It was common. It was common, Sean. It was common that the chassis they would leave basically for that style of track, and they would, do the brakes and all that. But they were and part of what NASCAR wanted with this car, right, was that you could go from Martinsville and take the same car and go to Talladega. That's what they were hoping for. Their idea was this should save costs, because right now we have teams building a special car for Martinsville and a special car for Talladega and a special car for Vegas, and we want those cars to be used everywhere. I can appreciate that. That is the root of stock car racing. The problem is, for years, the intermediate tracks have been horrible racing, Sean. And now that this car is really kind of addressed and fixed that, and hat tip to NASCAR, that was their goal and their focus, and they did great. It's really ruined a lot of the other racing, though, is my problem.
Yeah, to the detriment of all the other types of tracks.
Right. And so it's just frustrating, where I would love to have this type of car on these tracks, and we get the old cars, even the car tomorrow. I didn't hate it as much. At the short tracks, super speedways, etc. Sean, it would be good racing. I don't know about you. I don't need photo finishes. A photo finish does not indicate to me if it was a good race or not. How about you?
I feel like a photo finish can add to it, but it isn't essential for it to be a good race. As long as the build-up, the storyline is there, that's what I think matters most.
I agree. And see, I enjoy the whole someone's on a different fuel strategy. They got the lead by 15 seconds. Can they save enough to make it? I miss those. So-and-so pitted earlier. They're on older tires, but they got clean air. The new tires is coming. Can they hold the old tires long enough, right? I've missed that. I don't want the option tire. I want one tire that's soft. You know what I mean? Like Dale Jr., I think, said it best on his show that way. My fear is NASCAR gets hung up on numbers. And my fear is just like, depending on who the driver wins, fans' reaction to whether or not it was a good race or not varies. Because Denny Hamlin's not loved by the masses. When he wins, it typically doesn't rate nearly as well as, say, William Byron or Chase Elliott or Tyler Reddick or any of these guys that are more, or Kyle Larson, which even he's kind of, people are all over the place with him, man. I've been on the Kyle Larson bandwagon going back before he signed with Ganassi. And I'm telling you, the fandom has been all over the place. I mean, from the hatred for what he said to loving him because he said it and now back to rate. It's a very weird dynamic with him and the fans, not to mention the whole dirt track fandom that he pulls with him, But I fear that, it wasn't a good race. It wasn't a photo finish. Maybe we get lucky that because Barry's a first-time winner, people will be excited still, but I just worry that gets lost. I don't know how many times I'll see, 89% said it was a great race, and I'll look at my buddy at work, and I'll be like, the finish was awesome. Like, I'm not going to deny that it was pretty sweet to see a 3-wide photo finish, but got to tell you, the 2.5 hours up to that point, pretty dry.
It all is going to depend. I mean, we've been getting varying quality of racing with this new car ever since it's been introduced. It's been all over the map. So,
except the intermediates, it's consistently done well on the intermediates, man. It really has. I've went to Charlotte for years. The best racing I've seen at Charlotte's been in this car. So I don't know what we got to do, what NASCAR's got to do to figure out why such. I do think the lack of horsepower is an issue at the short tracks. Yeah, but if this car is not safe enough, I don't know what we do to change that, right?
We go with tires.
That's clearly tires.
Yeah, that's been showing us the way so far, I say.
It just, they haven't gone soft enough, I don't think. I think you're right, but I don't think we've gone soft enough. I don't know the answer to super speedways because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, Sean. Let's just, for argument's sake, say we go back to the 07 car. Do these guys race any differently than they have today with the whole fuel mileage saving thing? I'm sure it's the same. They've already learned it. They've already learned, make it to that last pit stop, do the shortest pit stop possible, right? So,
yep.
I don't know. I don't know what we do to fix that.
Well, we have a whole season in order to figure it out and see if they can learn from and get notes from this and make changes at the very least for next year, or as we go along. Time is what we will need to figure it out. But hey, as long as they're still trying and we can make some notes, figure this out, maybe we'll get there. Who knows?
Maybe.
But
well, that's all I had. Did you have any additional thoughts for Vegas, Sean?
I felt like I got most of my thoughts out there for Vegas, other than the fact that I think for DFS and betting, it just did not go as we were expecting it to.
No,
at all.
It didn't. No, the Tyler Reddick, not getting a top 10, and that you and I talked about that. That was. I don't hate the call. I hate the call because it was low odds for a parlay, but I really thought it was a slam dunk parlay. 2 of the 3 legs were, and honestly, Sean, if I went to you mid-race and said Tyler Reddick's getting a top 10, what would you have said to me at that point?
I mean, he had a good enough car in order to do it too.
You said it best. Pit stop mistakes. When you make errors, and it was more than one, right? So, and they're mental mistakes. And you mentioned this last week, Sean, that it seemed like at Phoenix, all the teams were messing up. And we saw that carry over to Vegas again. Kyle Busch had a fast car. You wouldn't have known it with the way the race ended for him, And I'm still confused on that. Christopher Bell got lucky. He could have gone out there with a loose wheel, but he caught it early. The crew chief caught it early. They were smart enough to get him in a teammate's pit box. and
Yeah.
fixed it.
Wild, but that worked.
That worked. Now, my question, Sean, because a buddy of mine at work brought this up. NASCAR supplies all these guns now. Used to, the teams made their own. They would constantly rebuild them after every race. Like, that was a thing. Like, if you were going to be a tire changer, we want to look at your gun. Like, what have you done to your gun? Because that is what's setting you apart, right? Now we don't do that. Do you think there's some credence to the thought that maybe these guns are wore out and they need replaced, and that's why we're seeing so many loose wheels?
I feel like that's at least part of the whole deal. I think part of it has to do with the equipment, part of it has to do with the pit crew members, and then part of it has to do with just the pit crew members and the crew chiefs not giving the right communication. We saw all the cases of that even this past weekend.
I mean, the whole turning around, getting spun because he's leaving and the other guy's coming in, and there was no communication between the crew chiefs, the spotters, the drivers don't know what's going on. And Carson, when the guy's coming in, again, he's a young guy. You kind of got to wait. Like, you drove straight into his door, which means you're kind of the one at fault there because the guy's coming into his pits. He doesn't know that you're turning right out right there. You got to, and again, it's not all on Carson. Someone has to tell him, the spotter, the crew chief, somebody has to tell him, hey, car's leaving, car's coming in, wait on me. You know, and we've heard that on the radio before. Go on the jack, or you're the driver. Go on the jack. No, you wait for me. And you've heard sometimes you hear the crew chief go, hey, I had you wait for me because the guy coming in front of you was coming right away and I didn't want you to hit him, understand, blah, blah, blah. I'll try to have that cleaned up next time.
Or if you want another example of pit crew communication at work not working out, you look at what happened towards Chase Briscoe and the number 19 team during the Cup race this weekend, where basically the pit crew members were calling for an extra second in order to make sure the guns were tight to get that lug nut in, but the crew chief instead just told them to drive off.
Yeah. Not that stuff that I would hate to be. I don't know who the competition director is over there, but I tell you what, I can guarantee you that crew chief probably got an earful on that one, or the tire changers did. Now, let's say it is some of the equipment. It's probably going to be common. Like, we're going to hear, like I said, I'm struggling because seeing one loose wheel, two, whatever, but 4, 5, like, and it's been numerous races now, not just one off, right? So
this is why I say I think it's a mix of circumstances.
I think you're right
play here.
I think you're right. Early in the season, right? We're going to see mistakes, new members, new chemistry, all that. And I think the equipment is lacking. I think you're spot on, Sean. I think it's a combo of both. So that's our thoughts on Vegas. Yeah. And guess what? We don't have any news, man. The only news was everybody debating what Christopher Bell did and if it was right, wrong, or indifferent. Denny Hamlin's going, I'm pretty sure he's not the first one to do this. Someone else is going, well, what if he stopped in the 22? Well, the 22 ain't helping him. That's why he looked for a teammate.
Yeah, exactly. So, I know there was a lot of discussion on that, but really, though, I think the only other things that are really being discussed as far as news is stuff like sponsorship or driver announcements for future races. Right. I know there was the big one, of course, with Denny Hamlin landing Progressive Insurance as his new major sponsor for the rest of the year, too. They're doing 18 races with him for the rest of the year, starting with Homestead this week.
That may be so big that people don't realize that may have slowed down Denny Hamlin's retirement plans. Like, I'm being dead serious. If they didn't get a sponsor like this, I'm not sure we aren't having conversations about Denny Hamlin retiring.
Yeah. Or if you wanted to even talk about other little news, it'd be other than sponsor announcements. We're going to start to get more announcements of throwback paint schemes for Darlington coming up here. Like just recently, Junior Motorsports unveiled the throwback for Connor Zilic for Darlington. And he's throwing it back to a 1987 Buddy Baker paint scheme.
Ooh. I have not seen this one.
Let me see if I could get a quick
I'm looking
image
now.
of it.
So is he running? So Connor's running it for the Xfinity race then?
Yeah, for the Xfinity race with Junior Motorsports.
All right, here it is. Zilli running the... Man, do you know what this car looks like, though? So is this the Crisco car?
I believe it is. It's supposed to be based on an 87 Buddy Baker scheme.
Yeah. Here's the scheme. Let me see who's the sponsor. It is! I knew it. I
Can you throw that up on screen there real quick, Rich?
Yeah. It's just a.
Just
Here we
link
go.
me to the page.
Here we go. Here we go. So that's the Crisco car. I always had a soft spot for Buddy Baker and the Crisco sponsorship because I found it funny. The guy with the name Baker had Crisco for sponsorship. And as a kid, I don't know how many people realize this. Crisco was used all over that. You bake cookies. Crisco is in cookies, man. I'm telling you, it's in the recipe. And here is, let's see. Oh, it disappeared on me now. Here's the mock-up.
That's the mock-up. Yeah.
Yep.
It's a WeatherTech sponsored throwback towards the Crisco car.
Not bad for me just seeing the paint scheme and going, this looks like the Crisco car. Man, I got a weird memory, bro. Well, I have a weird mind, and apparently I suck at technology. So there's a little blip there for those of you that are watching on video. I obviously can't click on tabs, but I don't know what it is. Like I said, I just always love that sponsorship. And for some reason, I can recognize that paint scheme right off the bat there. Very cool. I wish it was for the Cup Series, but I'm not complaining, Sean.
Well, remember last year when we did like a quick little run of the Xfinity Series throwback paint schemes, and then as we were running through them, and I kept flashing a lot of them, and you were like, "Oh my God, this looks awesome, and this looks awesome," and you were like,
Dude,
"Why isn't Cup running these schemes?"
Exactly. I don't think people realize how much fandom is generated with the throwback schemes, because for me, it brings me back to childhood, or reminds me of my grandpa or something like that. But I mean, if you think about, someone my age taking their probably adult kid now to the race, when they have a throwback paint scheme that one of them or both of them recognize or realize, hey, this is when we used to cheer for Terry Labonte. This is when we used to cheer for Dale Jr. Like, I don't think people understand. NASCAR fandom has always been extreme because I think there's like this lifelong attachment to either teams, cars, drivers. And with the way the sponsors move around nowadays, that's just not the same. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I feel like that, as silly as it sounds, the paint schemes, they tug at your heartstrings a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you. We really don't see a lot of examples in the modern day, but even then, I still think we now can kind of get a few of those paint schemes there that have some longevity, you could say, or will be considered to have some longevity in the future. I can imagine years from now. Like, if you think about more current schemes, you think about maybe like, the Kyle Larson HendrickCars.com scheme, which I'm sure people are going to look back on that one fondly, another long-time scheme that's already, you could say, made an impact is the Shell Penske scheme there.
When they first came back in the sport with Johnny Benson, that car looked bad, man. That is one of my favorite paint schemes going way back. We haven't seen the black and yellow MGD. For a while, that was a real staple on the track, right? Versus the blue Miller Lite, right? Home Depot. I mean, think about the Home Depot. DeWalt still comes back and forth with theirs, so that one's hard to really look at that way. But the Home Depot car was, couldn't miss it, right?
I feel like the WeatherTech car right now, that SVG and Zillage drive, I think has potential to be a paint scheme like that too.
Yeah, well, and all the FedEx ones, right? I mean, Denny has been running a very similar FedEx one for a long, long time, right?
Yeah.
I enjoy that stuff. I mean, I think for most people, what gets them excited at the racetrack, the look of the cars, the smell, and the feel of the cars going by, and the sound.
Totally.
Those are all things that whenever you take someone to their first race, you can just see them take it all in. Like, they see them come by at a slow speed and they look shiny and fancy, right? And then they come, the green flag drops, and you see that whole wath coming at you. And you have no idea, and you're looking at them coming at you, how fast they are, until they come right to that corner, and then it's a wave. And you just feel that air literally throwing your hair back, rustling in so loud you can't hear yourself yell. Like there is something about that just makes you feel, alive.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. This conversation almost makes me want to bring back the paint scheme segment we ran for a while last year.
Right?
It almost does, but we cut that out basically due to time constraints because we can only fit so much into our show each and every week. But speaking of fitting stuff into our show, let's do a quick little refresher on the 2025 season so far. So in our rundown, we've I put a link towards the current Cup Series standings there. So you see we have William Byron currently in the lead in Cup Series points as it is in first over Christopher Bell. Now, we've had just 3 winners this year, William Byron, Christopher Bell, and now Josh Berry. So there's that as it is.
Bell has 3 of them.
Yeah, 3 winners in 5 races. So that's how it stands.
Honestly, I know that's not what NASCAR wants with this car, but Sean, that's not. We've been watching the sport a long time. This is pretty. I'm going to say common because winning 3 in a row wasn't common. Winning a 4th row is not common. But 3 years ago, William Byron won 3 of 5, if I remember correctly. I just don't think they were back to back to back. I believe it was back to back and then a gap or whatever. But my point being is, you've said this numerous times. Teams can start out hot. Don't buy into it. Don't get too excited and place in those futures because they're going to hit a wall. And that wall may be at the playoffs. That wall may be mid-season. That wall may be a month from now. It's going to happen. Whether it's, Carl Edwards doesn't believe in momentum and that sort of stuff. I do. Whether it's luck, whether it's just things aren't matching up, whether it's you're in a funk, it's going to happen. Not to mention, like we talked about, if I'm Bell and Chris Gale, why am I not Adam Stevens? Why am I not testing whatever I want to test? Like if I want to get an edge on everybody else, I'm locked in. At this point, there is no way Christopher Bell misses the playoffs, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're not going to get 16 guys with 3 wins. It's not possible. So he's locked in. They might as well do whatever, because there's no testing anymore in NASCAR. They might as well test during races, Sean. They might as well throw a crazy setup in.
There's only one logical reason I could think of for them wanting to continue to keep the momentum and not do that as much, and that's the regular season championship, Val, because they are very tightly contested with William Byron for that at the moment.
Let me ask you this. If you drove a Cup car, you were a crew chief on a Cup car, would you give about the regular season championship?
Well, in some ways you would, because it gives you a big playoff point advantage, which you can use in the playoffs right there.
That's fair, but you also have the wins. And I'll go so far as, let me put it this way. I had a swim coach that told us one time. So we had to set goals for the team through the year. Was it do the best we could as a team at state? Was it win conference? Was it win sectionals? Was it to be undefeated in our dual meets? What were all our goals? So we wrote down all our goals. We had 5 or 6 of them. And then we had to prioritize our goals. And coach said something that stuck with me today, and this was 30 years ago. Make sure you set your goals that you understand what sacrifices you have to make to achieve those goals. For example, if we wanted to be the best we could possibly be at state, that may mean we have to do something different in relays. We have to put people in other events, which means we may not win sections. Now, if we win sections, we may not have the best possible team at state. So what is more important? So this is where I go back to Bell. If you're Bell, what's more important, Sean? The NASCAR overall championship, getting the most wins in a season, the regular season championship. What would be your priority?
Really, you'd want to have some sort of combination of the 3, but if you can't get all 3, you want to put yourself in the best position to win the overall.
Exactly. That's where I'm at.
Anything.
And to your point, being the regular season champ may play into that, right?
It does play into that too, because we've seen it before in the past with this whole playoff format. You think back towards when Truex won in 2017. He got a lot of wins, and he also got a lot of stage points. He built up a massive playoff point cushion. just by all those wins and stage wins, he was able to really coast towards winning the championship and getting himself to that championship race that year. We've seen it before in the past, even too, with the knockout format as well. Kevin Harvick back in 2020, he won all those races. He won the regular season championship. Yeah, he didn't make the championship race, but really, it was because he underperformed the heck out of that round of 8 that year, and that's how he missed it overall. It just makes it easier to position yourself to get there.
Right. But at the same time, I would argue you're better off gambling, going for wins and getting those bonus points, right? Or winning stages and getting those bonus points, right? I mean, that regular season one is 1 point, right? You could win 3 races, get 3 points. You could win 3 stages, get 1 point, right? I mean,
stage wins are 1 point, race wins are 5. Regular season championship, I believe, is 25, I think, 15 or 25.
Okay, now that's different. Okay, that's different. I didn't realize it was 25 points for the regular season championship. So yes, in that regard,
it is a big number.
You may have to have winning the regular season as part of your plan to win it all, to your point, right? But it's closely contested. My goal is still winning the championship. So if that means we got to sacrifice a couple of races to test some things,
I think you do sacrifice a few races in order to test some stuff, but mainly at the tracks where you know you're not going to have the best chance to win and try to improve on that.
Or at least at the tracks in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it does me no good to be really good at a track that's not in the playoffs. Right? At this point, if I'm Bell, I mean, if I can take, say, data from Pocono that will be useful at the Roval, I'm just making something up here, right? Then maybe it makes sense to test something at Pocono, right? But otherwise, if you're worried about maybe testing engine durability, I could see doing something at Pocono, right? But I mean, otherwise, go out there and win the thing. It's not going to have an impact. I mean, because if anything, I would out Pocono and Indy, right? Like, I could see some overlap because turn 2 at Pocono is supposed to be like Indy. It's a flat, It's big, it's high speed. But there's not a lot of information I don't think you can take away. Now, it's different when we go to Martinsville in a couple weeks. That's a crucial race in the playoffs.
Oh,
that's massive,
big time,
right? We know they wanted to have Phoenix speed. So, anyhow, let's talk about your 2025 season so far, Sean.
So, in order to help us talk about the 2025 season, I put together a little quiz questionnaire, per se, of stats and trends based on this season that I'm going to be asking you, Rich, just to see if you've been studying up on any of this, but also if you haven't, you could find this very interesting, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers can find some of this very interesting so far, too. So we're going to go through... We're going to go through this kind of rapid fire right here, and I'll start us off here. So here's the first question I have for you. Who has the best average finish so far in this season after 5 races?
William Byron.
Yep, correct. 8.0. Now, who leads the Cup Series in top 10 finishes so far this year?
I'm going to go William Byron again.
I'll give you a hint. It's actually 2 drivers. Byron is one of them. Can you name the other?
Christopher Bell.
It is not Bell.
Kyle Larson?
It is not Larson either.
Ryan Blaney?
It is not Blaney.
I'm stuck. Who you got?
The other driver we were looking for was Bowman.
Oh, it is Bowman. Interesting. All right. Good find. Who
has led the most laps so far this season?
Oh, I just looked at this too. I'm going to go Christopher Bell.
It is not Christopher Bell.
Joey Logano.
It is Logano. He's led 247 laps so far.
They were talking about that on the race. I forgot. It was like, oh yeah, Joey's actually led the most laps and can't finish now. Go figure.
Yeah. So here's an interesting question. Are all of the members of one Cup Series team in the top 10 in regular season points? Yes or no?
Yes.
That is correct. Now, which team is it that has all their members in the top 10?
Hendrick.
Yep, that is correct, because we have Byron in first, Elliott in third, Bowman fifth, and Larson is in sixth. Larson being the lowest in points of the 4 Hendrick drivers is interesting.
Yeah, he's record, like my buddy says at work all the time. He's records or checkers. In fact, I was looking for Miami data here, and Larson's led all drivers the last 3 years with the new car and laps led. He dominated 3 years ago, absolutely dominated. Led 199 to 267. Came back, led 96, led the most laps of anybody, and wrecked out, finished third from last, 34th at the time, I believe. So
yeah, there you go.
Larson having a top 10 at Daytona is helping him, but that one poor finish at Coda, which is a little more atypical for him, is what hurts. But you get rid of that atypical finish at Coda and say, just put him in 15th, which is probably low for him. He's better road racing than people give him credit for. He's right there in the top 5 in points then.
Actually, yeah, if he had a much better finish at Coda, he'd be right up there with Christopher Bell as around 2nd or 3rd in points. So really, that race, you are correct about that. Definitely did not help.
And that was a loose wheel deal.
Yeah, again, with the loose wheels.
So dumb.
Continuing onward here, here's an interesting one for you. How many full-time drivers this year have a better average finish than they do their starting position? I'm looking for a number here.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with 7.
It is actually way more than 7.
15?
Very close. It is 16. And to name the drivers on that list that have a better average finish than their average starting position, it's Byron, Bell, Elliott, Bowman, Larson, Chastain, Hamlin, Nemechek, Stenhouse, Preece, Briscoe, Suarez, Herbst, Haley, Gibbs, and Cody Ware.
Cody Ware doesn't surprise me. He's actually been doing really well, and that in itself has surprised me, but I'm not shocked that he's on this list.
So, has any driver finished in the top 20 in all races yet this year so far? What do you think?
I believe there's got to be at least one. There's got to be at least one that has.
You are correct.
If I had to guess who that was, William Byron.
It is not Byron. One driver has done it, but it is not Byron.
Bowman?
It is not Bowman
he
either.
Wrecked, because he had that wreck too. I'm trying to think who hasn't wrecked out that typically runs well. Don't tell me it's Denny Hamlin.
It is not Hamlin either.
Who is it? I'm stumped now.
Just like last year, Chase Elliott.
Oh, duh. I don't know how I was spaced on that because he hasn't done all that well, but he's 5th in points or whatever. So, or 3rd. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So next up on my little trends and stats list here of questions is how many full-time drivers this year have not led a single lap yet? We're looking for a number here.
There's a whole bunch that haven't. 30.
Incorrect. In fact, actually, the number is much smaller than 30.
Oh, I'm kind of shocked by this. 17.
Still lower.
Still lower than 17?
Yes.
Only 15 guys or full-time drivers haven't led a lap yet?
It's even lower than 15 even.
12?
Still lower.
10.
It is 10, yes. And I'll name those drivers for you. These drivers have not led a single lap all year.
Wait, can I guess what some of them are?
Sure.
All right. Give me Cody Ware. Oh, he's not full-time.
He is full-time, but he's not on that list.
He's actually led a lap. I know Ty Dillon has, so take him off the list. I don't think Justin Haley's led a lap yet.
You are correct about that one. He's one of the 10 on the list.
Todd Gilliland did. I swear he did at Daytona or whatever.
He did lead this year.
Yep.
You are correct about that.
Has Alex Bowman led a lap?
He has.
Okay. Well, lay him on me because I'll eventually get him, but good Lord, it's going to take me a while to go through the list here.
So going from the bottom on up, we have in the standings, the lowest driver in the standings to not lead a single lap is Cole Custer, followed by Ty Gibbs, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, Zane Smith, Justin Haley, Riley Herbst, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., John Hunter Nemechek, and the highest driver in points has not led a single lap this year, Chris Buescher.
I'm shocked by Brad and Busher. And I swore Zane Smith led a lap at one of the tracks because I remember seeing him up near the front. Obviously, I'm wrong. But that one shocks me because I swear, because I had him and I was like, nah, I'm pretty confident he led at one of the races, but obviously not.
Yeah. He's been close to the front, but he just hasn't gotten there.
I'm shocked it's that low, to be honest with you. And honestly, Sean, at least 4 or 5 of those guys, I expect to lead a lap in the next 3 races.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure some of them are going to before we're done this year. Getting to my next question here. Which full-time driver has the best average overall place differential? That's average start versus average finish.
Carson Hocevar.
Incorrect.
Todd Gilliland.
It is not Todd Gilliland either.
Austin Dillon.
It is not Austin Dillon either.
Who is it?
The answer we're looking for is actually John Hunter Nemechek. His average start at 27.8 versus his average finish of 14.2. That's an overall increase of 13.6 positions for the year.
Well, we should be using him more than apparently.
Yeah. So now let's go with the opposite angle here, and which one has the worst now?
Oh, the worst?
Yeah.
Denny Hamlin.
It is not Denny.
Joey Logano.
You got it. On the second guess, it was Logano. His average.
That wasn't a guess. I figured it was one of those two. I really did, because the both of them have qualified well, had speed, and both of them keep stepping on their pet tallywhackers. So,
believe it or not, Hamlin is not number 2 on that list either.
Oh, number 2, Kyle Larson.
It's not Larson either.
No, I'd be guessing at this point.
Joey Logano barely beats out Bubba Wallace for overall differential.
Poor Bubba, and he's been running well. I kind of feel bad for Bubba.
Yeah, Bubba's been qualifying good, but hasn't finished as well as he's qualified. But Logano's qualified better and finished worse than Bubba.
I was going to say, I should know that because we keep talking about Bubba keeps getting, running well, qualifies well, and that should have been one of the first ones.
Yeah, so Logano has an average start of 8.2 this year. His average finish is 19.8. So that's a decrease of 11.6 positions.
Karma, Joey. It's called karma.
So who has been the top DFS performer of the year so far on both DK and FD? It is the same driver for both.
William Byron.
It is not Byron.
Well, I mean, it's either got to be, if it wasn't Byron, I would have gone Larson, I would have gone Blaney, and I would have gone Bell.
It's Bell.
Yeah.
So I saw this online here too, but what's one fun thing in common that all 3 of our winners this year have had?
Let's see. Our 3 winners have been Barry, Bell, and Byron. They're all B's.
Exactly. There you go. So I guess we should predict a driver with the B in order to win this that weekend's race there, if we're continuing that trend. I'm going to say probably we're going to maybe go with Blaney or Bowman there for that.
Blaney's due, and he's been really good here, man. Interestingly enough, are you ready to start talking Miami yet? Because I have some interesting stats I wanted to throw at you.
You know what? I was going to say, I know I have a few other ones here, but we're getting up in time, so we should just skip right to that there and get into our preview for Homestead. Right.
So let me mention a couple of things to you. So we've only run 3 races in this car at Miami, okay? This is going to be the first spring race in this car because we used to do 2 races at Miami, 1 spring, 1 fall. 3 years ago at the launch of this car, we went down to 1 at Miami, which is a damn shame because, like I said, this has been the best mile-and-a-half track. There is 1 driver that has 3 top 10s in this car at this track. Who is it?
It's AJ Allmendinger.
Bingo. It's the only one, AJ Allmendinger. Interestingly enough, and I don't have it pulled up here. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, and all
there were 2 drivers. Yep, there were 2 drivers that were way better on their average finish. There was 3 drivers inside of 7 with an average finish of like 5.5 or better. Okay. You want to take a guess at who they were?
I know Christopher Bell had the same average finish as Allmendinger.
Bell was, let's see here.
5.3 in the last 3 races.
Yep. Dinger is also 5.3, like you said, and then there was 4 of them. Then Blaney at 7.0 and William Byron at 7.3. Here are some interesting names right after that, though. Granted, he's only had 1 race there. Josh Berry, 11. Chase Elliott, 11.3 in 3 events. Ryan Preece in 2 events, 11.5. Bubba Wallace in 2 events, 12.0. Alex Bowman, 2 events, 13.0. Tyler Reddick, 3 events, 13.0. You know who else is 13.0 there, Sean?
Bowman and Austin Dillon.
Bingo!
And also, there's one other name you forgot to mention on that list that you skipped over too, with an average finish of 9.0, even though he's only ran 1 race, and that's Carson Hocevar.
So he doesn't show up. I had to search him out separately, and I thank you for bringing that up because I wanted to mention him. If you're on Racing Reference, Sean, and sort by average finish, Hocevar doesn't exist. He's not listed at all. So I was going through there and said, wait a second, I thought he ran well here. He did. He finished 9th last year. Started 15th, I believe. I'm going off of memory. Yes, and he was a name, and that's why I added him late. You probably saw his name show up late on the show sheet. Reason it showed up late on the show sheet is because as I'm going through and looking at stuff, I'm like, why am I not seeing him anywhere? So I went and searched him out specifically, just his info, and went, they left him off my freaking info sheet here. He needs to be talked about. Yes. So Hocevar, Dillon, Berry. These are, and Bubba, honestly. These were all names I wanted to make sure we touched on because considering we've only had 3 races at this track, only 1 driver has 3 top 10s in this car at this track. The best outside of that is 2, which is a bunch of them. Don't get me wrong. Your Bells, Blaney, all of that. But hat tip for Dinger, right? I mean, I got him as a core. We'll talk about that here briefly. But I mean, Sean, were you shocked to see that? Or did you have him in your core as well?
Well, let's just say that, yeah, he is going to be in my core plays after all this week, too. I love Allmendinger, especially for this week as well. And this is also piggybacking off the fact, and we didn't even mention this at the top of the show, but he did just score a top 10 finish at Las Vegas. So let's not forget that we're going to a track for him that's even better than Vegas. So
right. So I'm excited for both him and Austin Dillon, if I'm being completely straight. I also like Hocevar and Berry. Honestly, from a DFS standpoint, Sean, that middle tier, there is a bunch of drivers I love in that middle tier. I could easily build a core around that middle tier, and whatever money's left, because I'll be frank, I'm torn between all of the top 4 or 5 guys, Sean.
Yeah,
there's a lot of similar data points there, and I could see an argument for Larson, who has been dominant here, Reddick, who loves to run high, Blaney, who has been very, very good here. It shows in the average finish and everything else. Bell, who also has run dirt in the past, doesn't mind running the high side. William Byron doesn't mind running the high side. Like all these guys, like I between there's probably 4 or 5 in that middle tier and 4 or 5 at that top tier that we could put probably bets on to win, and I would feel very confident on any of the 8 or 9. You know, which I get 8 or 9 out of 36 is a lot, right? But I'm just saying there, I would have a hard time differentiating odds in that top group and differentiating odds among each other in that bottom group. And I would have that bottom group not nearly as separated from that top group as I think probably people would expect.
Truly. Just to get everybody up to speed here on the strategy aspect of this race, it should be very similar overall to last week, even though the strategy did not overall pan out per se. I think the strategy is more likely to pan out here, where we're going to need to get those dominators in. We're going to need to look for place differential where we can get it, and look for drivers that can be able to nail a solid finishing position based on their salary too. Like if you're getting a value tier driver, you want them to finish top 20 or top 15 if you can.
And Mark was, it was funny because we talked about how there had been a lot of cautions at Vegas, and then this past weekend that totally went out the door. They had more cautions in this last race than they did the last 4 races combined. I mean, it That's where the strategy, I wouldn't say the strategy didn't work. We had the wrong guys for the strategy. The idea of having a balanced lineup with the dominators was right. Things just didn't fall the right way.
And there was another trend that Las Vegas ended up bucking with this past week's race as well that I believe I mentioned on the show, or if not in the article as well, was that each of the last 4 Vegas races had a driver lead over 100 laps. We did not see that this past weekend. Kyle Larson got the closest with about 61 laps led.
And that was the other thing Mark brought up. I said, Mark, I would agree with you, except when we go back, we have to go back 3 years to the first race here to have that kind of differentiation. Outside of that, I was willing to bet $100 somebody was going to lead 80 to 100 laps, Sean. I would have been very adamant that was going to happen. So it makes me more curious what we see at Miami this week. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Very curious.
Because 3 years ago, Larson led 199 at 267. Since then, nobody's led more than 97. We've only seen it 90 led twice in those last 2 races, or once each. One of them, someone else hit 80. The other one, nobody else even came close. So I'm very curious to see it. What I did find interesting, though, was fastest laps over that period. Kyle Larson, 39%. So if
he
you
knows
see
how to run fast.
I would say, if I don't know what the odds would be, but if you see odds to bet whoever has the fastest lap, because I have seen that in books at places, I'm okay betting Kyle Larson. I wouldn't put a ton on it, but I got to tell you.
I have it up here at DraftKings Sportsbook. They have for the single race fastest lap for Kyle Larson, he's top of the board at plus 450.
See, I would take a shot at plus 450. I wouldn't put a ton on it, but I mean, $5 to win 25 or whatever, 22.5 or 23. Sign me up. I mean, I feel like that's pretty good odds on a guy that's had almost 40% of the fastest laps in the last 3 races here. Like, I understand that doesn't mean he's been the fastest, but I'll take my chances on the guy that is almost 50% of the fastest laps. Like, I'm just taking the quantity and hoping I get the right one.
There you go. So, and it just goes forth to show that Larson may be one of the drivers that we're targeting and exploring for our DFS this week and our betting. But he's
just tough because of his price point, right?
Yeah, totally 100%.
Well, how about this, Sean? How about I rapid fire through the part-time drivers for the week? How about that? Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's go through that real quick here.
All right, so for the Truck Series, Brandon Jones is in the number 1 Tricon. I had to do a double take there. I was thinking Xfinity, but yeah, he is in the number 1 Tricon truck. Stephen Malozzi. I got to look this poor man's name up. He's number 2 Rome Brothers. Kyle Larson is driving for the 07 Spire. Connor Day
triple header Larson weekend.
That's right. Oh, that's right. He is doing all 3. What a maniac. Must not be a dirt race this weekend. Corey Day is back in the 7 Spire truck. I tell you what, man, I was pretty impressed last week with Day. Stefan Parsons is back in the 20 Youngs Motorsports. It's a name to watch. Ross Chastain's back in the 44 truck for Nice. Kanori Agata is driving for his own race team in the number 63. Luke Fenhouse is back for Thor Sport in the 66. The number 67 with Jeff Hammond as the crew chief is still to be announced for a driver.
They did announce the driver for that, actually. I got it right there.
Oh, yeah, Michael Disdeer?
Yeah.
I don't know who that is. I'll have to look that up. I don't know who that is. Good call out. For Xfinity, in the 07 SS Green Light Machine, Alex Lobb is back. Kyle Larson, as Sean pointed out, will be doing not 1, not 2, but 3 races as he's in the HMS 17 and Xfinity. Oh, Sean, hit me with this name because I always butcher it.
Justin Bonsignor is in the number 19 for Joe Gibbs Racing there.
We better not ignore him. That 19 car is fast everywhere. Corey Heim is back with Sam Hunt in the 24. I did not see an announcement for the number 35 yet, which is a Joey Gase machine with Mike Hillman Sr. as a crew chief.
I did not either.
Brad Perez in the 45 Alpha Prime machine. Mason Maggio in the 53 Joey Gase machine. Leland Honeyman Jr. in the 70 Cope Family machine. Dawson Cram in the 74 Mike Harmon car. And I tell you what, we got to dig up onto some Dawson Cram. He showed me a little speed last week I did not expect to see, Sean. Mike Snyder's back in the 91 DGM Racing by Jim. I don't know what that is. Do you know who JIM is, Sean?
What I do know is that it's a DGM racing car, and those cars are usually mid-pack with occasional potential in order to maybe compete for a top 10. So that's not a bad car to hop into.
Fair enough. And then we have one cup entry, JJ Yaley with the 44 NY Racing Team.
Yeah, that's a back marker if I've ever seen one.
Yes, it is. I helped them on their pit crew once, Sean. That's how much of a back marker they are.
Wow.
I'm not
wild.
joking. I took the transponder out of the truck they ran. I got cameras or still shots of it. My mom's like, "Who's the bald guy working under the hood of the car?" I said, "That's me, Mom."
We've got to throw those images up there.
I got to find them. I don't know where they're at. I got to find them. I have no idea where they're at. Keep in mind, this was back in 2011. So I've had numerous phones, and that may have been taken with a digital camera. It's hard to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get into our driver picks, just as a reminder, we are a part of fantasyguru.com, so you can go over there, get any of the packages in order to get more coverage from us or any of the other experts for any other sports for Fantasy Guru as well. You can get the Game Time MVP all-in package or the MVP Platinum. We do have our March Madness guide out there for $39.99. Be sure to get that because March Madness action is hot and it's happening right now. And we also have the MLB draft guide still available over at Fantasy Guru. Baseball season is almost here. We're still in the middle of spring training, but the regular season is going to be starting before we know it. So you want to get in there, get that MLB draft guide now. Hit up support at fantasyguru.com for the best possible deals you can get. Be nice to them, and you know what? They'll be nice to you and get you the best possible deal to get you all the expert advice, all the Discord rooms, all the articles and content you need in order to make some cash.
Do it. All right, well, here, we're going to help you try to make some cash with our Fantasy Guru Core 4. Well, actually, this isn't our Core 4. This would be our DFS picks. We'll get you to our Core 4 here shortly.
We're working our way to it.
We are. Sean, I tell you what, we got a lot of overlap. So if you want to even mention my guys with your guys, so we're not repeating stuff, feel free, because there's a ton of overlap here. Not shocked. I'm assuming the same data points you did. So I'm not shocked that we have a lot of love for the same guys.
Yeah, so we both are obviously picking Kyle Larson as a driver to watch this week. I mean, the dude's been really good. This is one of his favorite racetracks to go to. I mean, he's doing a triple header. That's how much he loves this track. So that should tell you.
It's a dirt track that's paved, man. I mean, it really is.
Now, Rich, you also have Tyler Reddick in there as one of your guys there. I'm not on Reddick as much as some of the other guys, but I do not dislike the call either there. He's at 10,700 on DraftKings. Now, my number 2, I'm kind of split between FanDuel and DraftKings depending on the price with these drivers because I like them about the same. But for me, I have William Byron and Christopher Bell because both of these drivers have been great at this track as well. They've been strong so far this season. Byron's a little bit cheaper than Bell on FanDuel, but Bell is the cheaper driver on DraftKings. So take that as you will. And as for my last slot, it's a driver to watch. I'm putting Chase Elliott as a driver to watch because he's had his fair share of solid runs. And he was also one of the drivers that was competitive in last year's race at Homestead as well. And he's quietly been showing some consistency this year. And if you need a driver that's under the 10K range in DraftKings, he's probably the name that I have my eye on the most based on track history and equipment over there.
I have the whole, like we just mentioned, Sean, I could use just about anybody in the top 5 or 6 priced, and that includes Blaney, who's had a little bit of bad luck here. I think Elliott's a great pick. I was torn between going with Byron or Reddick. Here's my decision. There's a common theme with the 3 guys I picked: Larson, Reddick, Bell. Can you find the theme, Sean?
Larson, Reddick, Bell, all dirt racers.
Bingo. That is literally why they're in that group for me. So look, we talk about it once qualifying happens. I might pivot. I was very close to putting Byron there. I love the Chase Elliott call, and I also think Blaney deserves in that discussion. So that whole tier is kind of loaded, but that's where I'm off a little bit with Reddick. I'm with you spot on the pricing there. For our mid-tier options, you and I both have Bubba Wallace. I was kind of shocked to see his average finish and how well he's placed here, Sean. My list is a little long because this whole tier is loaded for me. I'm in a complete agreement with you on Carson Hocevar. The young man has been showing speed. I'm also in agreement with you on Ryan Preece.
Yes.
I was kind of shocked at his data points for this race, along with his teammates. His was best.
I was going to say, the one thing about Preece that I have to mention is those past stats of his at this track are not with the current team he's with now, which is RFK. And you could argue that's even better equipment than those previous starts. So
I think you're correct. I do think we should give a shout out to Josh Berry at 7,700 and Daniel Suarez at 7,600. This whole group and the pricing between Berry, Suarez, Preece, and Hocevar is not much. We are talking the difference of $500 between all of them. Depending on where your money falls, that could dictate who you use. But this whole tier, Sean, in my opinion, I think is where we want to start our builds around.
Yeah, it's not a bad call. I think practice and qualifying are really going to be the big deciding factors as far as who we're going to be targeting most in the end. But I think all these drivers mentioned are in play.
Agreed. Take us through the sleepers.
So potential sleepers and values. Now, let's just say our list is almost overlapping entirely except for one driver pick at the end. So let's just go forth and say it that we're both in on AJ Allmendinger and Austin Dillon. They've been great at this track. And I think RCR has quietly shown some more speed compared to the last year and getting more back towards their 2022 form a little bit as far as the speed chart is concerned. Which means that if Austin Dillon qualifies deep enough, I think he's a sleeper pick in order to actually finish well. And we already talked about AJ Allmendinger and how great he is at this track as well. Now, where we have our big difference in opinion is that you have Ty Dillon and I have Riley Herbst. Now, before I get into Riley, why don't you tell us about why you're in on Ty Dillon?
Here's my thing on Dillon. He's cheap. Stupid cheap. 5,200. So you're like, well, it's not a bad punt option. I don't know too many punt options that I have seen running in the top 5 at different parts of races. I have been thoroughly impressed with Ty Dillon's runs in that number 10 car. Has he had the awesome finishes? No. Has he setting top 10s on fire? No. But he has, in all the races somewhere, except for Coda, showed up in the top 10, Sean. So for $5,200, I'm willing to roll the dice, bro. And his record here is pretty decent in itself, too, considering it's been bad equipment and everything else. At $5,200, I just think he's so underpriced that it's a punt option you can get away with. Now, if he qualifies inside the top 20, now we're playing with fire. But if he's outside the top 20, if he's 25th through 30th in qualifying, I'm going to be borderline all in on him at $5,200. It's just so cheap. It lets me. I can go stars and scrubs then. I can get 3 guys then in that top tier and then balance out the other spots with the lower values in that mid tier that we talked about, or going with a Ty Dillon and Austin Dillon, a Dinger. You have so much money left over at that point. You could do darn near whatever you want.
I think that's very interesting to note. Ty Dillon is not a bad overall call. I do not mind using Dillon. I'm just going to note this because the qualifying position is also a point in order to make note of. He only has one top 10 starting spot this year, which was a 7th at Daytona. Right. Otherwise, he's been at best 17th to start, which was at Las Vegas this past weekend. And then he has a top 20 start at Atlanta as well. All of the last 2 starts at Phoenix and Coda, both outside the top 20.
That's what I'm hoping for, right? I mean, in here, I've got his numbers. I had his numbers at Miami here. That 10 car keeps, every time I turn around, I'm like, well, the 10 car, what is he doing there? Like, I've been absolutely floored at the speed. And the thing is, Sean, Cody Ware's doing the same thing in the same equipment. Like, Cody Ware's been a decent punt option.
Yeah, Cody Ware has worked. He's been finishing ahead of his starting position often. But you know what, though? I think people are sleeping on the last driver I picked in this tier, and that's Riley Herbst. Really, I think people are severely sleeping on the amount of DFS production he's been making this year. You look forth and you look towards the 5 races this year. Guess how many times has he finished in the top 20 there, Rich?
I bet all of them.
4 times, 4 out of 5 races. In that 5th race, he only didn't do it because he DNF'd in an accident.
I'm not shocked. I mean, it's decent equipment. He is quietly just sort of doing his thing. You know what I mean? I don't dislike the Riley Herbst pick. It was a name I noted.
I think he is the most under the radar pick this season so far.
Look at this. Finished 17th, finished 17th, finished 17th, finished 37th, finished 19th. The only race that didn't pay was the one he qualified well in.
Yeah, go figure, right?
Right. Which we have said typically that's been a better indicator of speed. So, look, he's on a good team. And kind of like I've said with Barry, kind of like I've talked to other people regarding Austin Cindric. We're seeing a little bit with Jesse Love and Sammy Smith. Some of these really talented guys, they need a year or two to figure out the equipment. Greg Biffle was this way. When they went to a new tire, Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson both talked about this. So I think again, qualifying, right? If he qualifies in 18th again, I don't know, Sean. I might be a little too chicken. But if he qualifies in the mid-20s like he's been, I think you're spot on. Like I said, for me, picking that third one, I considered Herbst. I think he's a great pick. I was so shocked with the 5,200. I was blown away.
Yeah, I don't blame you for seeing that price on Ty Dillon and being interested in that. That did get my attention too. But really, what I think also swung me over to Herbst in the end was his track record in the Xfinity Series at this particular track. Because in 6 starts, he's never finished worse than 11th, and he has 5 top 10 finishes at this track in the Xfinity Series.
So just to give you some background on Ty Dillon, his finishes this year, 14th, 29th, 28th, 16th, 21. So if I had to bet who's going to, on a head-to-head, Herbst would be the guy without a doubt, right?
Yeah.
But if I can
23-11 versus Colleague right there.
Right. That said, he's not 5,200. So it's where money and what you want to do. This is where the strategy of how you're building your lineups, is going to matter. So.
Yeah. You can take very much different approaches, but I think both are viable options are in play overall.
Yep.
So let's get into our core 4 picks here. Some of you have been waiting for these. So I'm going to go ahead and get into my core 4 here. I have Ryan Preece at 7,200 on DraftKings and 6,200 on FanDuel. AJ Allmendinger at a flat 7K on DraftKings and a flat 6K on FanDuel. Yeah, I'm going with Riley Herbst in that other slot there. He's just too cheap, and I love the potential performance aspect there. He's 5,500 on DraftKings and 3,200 on FanDuel. And as far as my main pick, my top price pick, I'm going with Christopher Bell on DraftKings at 10,200, but on FanDuel, I'm pivoting towards William Byron at 12,500. Now, on DraftKings, if you use the core picks that I listed, you have about $10,000 and $10,050 there for 2 more, and for FanDuel, you get $22,100 for 1 more. Which even if you wanted to use the FanDuel core, you can easily swap out a driver for another top-priced edition in order to still have a lot of options to play around with.
So I kind of cheated and went with the core 3. I do have 4 drivers listed, Sean. Honestly, you've kind of talked me into Riley Herbst, so I would easily move my 4th driver, who I'll name here shortly, out. I put a 4th driver in there to try to help illustrate how we can spread the cost out, okay? So my core 3 that I'm really banking on, at least right now, Bell, Dinger, Dillon, okay? That leaves us a ton of freedom. You got an anchor still at the top end with Bell, right? But we got some value plays. That leaves you a wide spread of what you can do. I threw Daniel Suarez in there because at 7,600, it's kind of a middling price, right? You could easily go Hocevar, Barry, somewhere in that range, okay? Say you went Suarez and then threw in a Bubba Wallace, who we both like. That leaves you the option for a 6 driver being anybody and everybody except Kyle Larson. Now, to your point, we put Riley Herbst in, say, over Suarez, still go with Bubba. Now you do have everyone available with money to spare, okay? So there's a lot of ways to do it, but I'll be frank. I'm good with Bell, Dinger, and Dillon, and I would love to get maybe Larson or Byron or Reddick or one of those guys and figure out that mid-tier. And like Sean and I mentioned earlier, that mid-tier is probably going to be dependent on qualifying. We may love Barry now. Now, here's the deal. Barry's been good enough. I don't care if he qualifies top 10 or not. He's been qualifying top 10. So where he qualifies probably insignificant. Suarez is probably in the same boat, give or take. But some of the other guys, like we talked about, if Ty Dillon qualifies well, I that's too risky, even at the low price point. I'm nervous if Riley Herbst qualifies a bit better than what he has consistently this year, although I would say we expect him to, right? But so far, he's been better. Seems to me when they work on the race car as far as race trim and just qualify, they do him a better job. And honestly, if I'm a crew chief, this is a young driver. I want him to race well. Qualifying is only a couple of laps. We need you to get seat time. We need you to come back in one piece. We need you to run consistently in the top 15. That means we need race trim. So I could see how they consistently are racing better than they're qualifying. In fact, we should probably start noting some of the younger drivers or new crew chiefs or whatever it is, Sean, to be like, hey, we expect these guys to work on race trim, right? I try to watch qualifying to know that, but as well as I do, the coverage isn't what it used to be, right? So
no,
that's where I'm at. It's not. So that's where I'm at with my core. I'm ready to move on there, Sean, if you want to get into the bets.
Yeah, so we're going to do the betting core for winners here. Basically, I have Kyle Larson at plus 400, Ryan Blaney at plus 500, William Byron at plus 650, and Christopher Bell at plus 900. You have Larson, Blaney, Bell, and Reddick there. So Reddick being the only difference.
Dirt racer. And I'm half tempted to be there with you on Byron, Sean. I really am. I don't know why I have Blaney over Byron. That was a tough call, but quite frankly, Sean, I don't know about you, but I'm shocked Bell's 900.
Yeah, I think that line is slightly off as it is. I feel like he should be maybe around where like Byron is at plus 650.
Agreed.
Or maybe something like plus 600 or plus 500 even.
Plus 700?
Yeah. Plus 900 is a little bit off. I'd bet that totally.
I agree.
Now let's get into some of the other betting picks here. So we've been really hammering down on the top 10 bets here. I know you got a few here, Rich. Tell us about those.
I can't believe how much we overlap again on these. The only one that you have that I don't have is Alex Bowman, and I think that's a brilliant call, Sean. At plus 110, I didn't realize how consistent Mr. Bowman had been, and that's kind of his jam. So hat tip to you on that one. I think that's an excellent call. We're both on Carson Hocevar at plus 160, Dinger at plus 250, and Dillon at plus 600. I can explain my logic, and I don't know what yours is, Sean, but here's where I'm coming from. I don't know how these guys are plus odds when they've been top 10 finishers or close to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hocevar only has one race here, and he started 15th, so it wasn't a fluke finish in 9th. Dinger's the only one in this new car that's had 3 top 10s in 3 races. And Austin Dillon is an average finish of 13th. So why is he a long shot at 6-1 for a top 10? I just think that line is off. And I'll be honest, Sean, I'm worried that Dinger's and Carson Hocevar's are going to drop come post-qualifying.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I think the same thing for Bowman there, too. I named him as a top 10 bet simply because even if Bowman hasn't been the most consistent with top 10s at this particular track, guess what? He's been consistent with top 10s this season regardless of the track type because he's tied for the most all year with William Byron.
Right. I mean, and the whole team at Hendrick's been performing. So I think that's a brilliant call, Sean.
100% right there. Totally. Now, as far as some other bets are concerned, I also have some group winner bets that I put on our sheet for today as well. So there's 2 groups I want to call out on DraftKings Sportsbook. Group B, which has Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, and Ross Chastain. I think the best finisher of that group is going to be Christopher Bell. He's at plus 200 for that group. Now, the other group I have on there is Group C, which is Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Chase Briscoe, and Alex Bowman. I'm picking Alex Bowman to easily win that group with odds of plus 330 right there, Rich.
I like those calls. I love the Bell one of that group. And it's hard for me to bet against my boy Kyle, but that's my only thing. They have not finished, but the speed's been there. But I love the call. I mean, especially at almost 3.5 to 1, Sean, for Bowman. Good call.
Totally. These group winner bets are very sneaky and totally worth the time. Totally worth it.
I struggle with them. I'm impressed with your success with them. I don't know if I get in my head or not. I've had better luck with top 10s and top 5s, so I'm trying to get back in my wheelhouse and kind of stick to what works. Scared money don't win money, and I ran scared last weekend, so I apologize to everybody. The weekend before, I got all up in my head, and I let it carry over. Done. Because guess what? I proved to myself the damn gut feelings of what I need to stick to. The fact that I can still visualize me seeing Josh Berry at plus 135 for a top 10 going, I can't believe he's plus odds. We need to bet this. And then as I'm typing it up in Discord, I go, no, you're getting greedy, Rich. Don't get greedy. No, I wasn't getting greedy. It would have covered our other bet. So boo me. Shame on me. We're back to the drawing board, back to fundamentals. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, and what's crazy was if you took it even further and you're like, I think Barry's going to win. His odds were plus 8,000 to win this past weekend.
Astronomical. And I'll be the first to admit, that would not be where I've gone. I would not have had suggested a long shot bet on Barry to win. Top 5, maybe. I like, it's like the parlays that I put together for football. I call them no sweat parlays because my goal is to have the legs cash by halftime or the third quarter. And what's funny to me is consistently I can get most, not all, and I haven't hit on them. And that's been what's frustrating. But I'm getting 6 out of 8 to cash before the third quarter, right? I should be looking at the cash out options is what I should be doing, is making these parlays and look for cash out options or something. But, well, I'm excited for this weekend, Sean. I think Vegas showed us a decent precursor to what we're going to see this weekend. I think it's reasonable to assume the dirt racers will be a factor. Look, the reason Larson, if you're going to be fast at Miami, you better run high, wide, and handsome. That's an old saying they used to say about Harry Gant back in the day. And you have to. You're going to have to run against the wall. And that's why Kyle Larson wrecked after leading 99 laps. He runs against the wall, and whoops, there's not a lot of room to wiggle room there. There's almost an air bubble that gets created. It's kind of crazy when you talk to the drivers about it. But I think that it's going to be the dirt racer show. Maybe I'm too much in on Reddick right now. It's a valid stance to question that. The fact that Sean and I overlap so much, I tell you what, Sean, last year when we overlapped a lot, we didn't miss much. Not always, but we were, when we overlapped, we were kind of dangerous.
Yeah. Just something to make a note of as we
I'm
close
just
out
saying, because we're overlapping a lot this week. Like, we always overlap some, but this week it's almost easier for us to find the one-offs where we don't. So we'll see. Qualifying will change some things. As always, please go to fantasyguru.com, click the subscribe button, check out the packages. If you don't see what's working for you or you have questions, please feel free to email us, support@fantasyguru.com. Tell them what you're looking for. I stand by our customer service. We're one of the few companies that still offer customer service and actually respond with real people. So a hat tip to our team. We got March Madness promo. We've got the spring training launch with the Major League Baseball promo. We've got the MVP package. You can still get the promo that gets you NBA with Finstein and those guys. You get you hockey with Horry Pucks. Get you soccer. I believe Arnie is still kicking around the soccer ball. Tyrod, T-Trailer, my gosh, he's all over the place with MMA and esports. I mean, the guy he's giving you action, folks. So give him a shout out. Mark will have you covered with the UFL, so we're looking forward to that. He's been pretty money on that in the past, so that'll be fun and exciting. But head over to fantasyguru.com, click subscribe. On behalf of everybody at the Elite Plus Network and Sean Engel, who you can find on X at SeanE247, I am Rich, still the Commissioner Maletto, Res Commissioner Maletto, Racing Entertainment Series. Till next time.